Okay, we'll start with this. Emmanuel Navarrete belongs on the pound-for-pound list, says Eddie Hearn. After crushing Eduardo Nunez this past weekend, the conversation quickly shifted to whether or not WBO and IBF junior welterweight champion Navarrete...
Junior welterweight? Don't they mean junior light?
I think they did, but that's what the author wrote. Should be considered for a prestigious yet subjective accolade. I think it's time to see him on the pound-for-pound list, Matchroom Boxing head Eddie Hearn said during the post-fight press conference at the Desert Diamond Arena in Arizona. I have to say what a fighter Navarrete is. I've watched a lot of boxing for 40 years, and I've never seen a fighter so relaxed, awkward, and simultaneously dangerous. He wasn't breathing. He doesn't look like this guy should fight like that. He has a style that causes anybody problems. He is an incredible fighter. Navarrete is not on the ring's pound-for-pound list, but after his vicious beating of Nunez, the former 122, 126, and the ring's new number one rated 130-pounder certainly started trending towards serious consideration. However, it can't be forgotten that Navarrete is fortunate that his past fight with Charlie Suarez in May didn't result in a loss. Navarrete originally walked away with a technical decision that was later ruled a no contest when previously unavailable footage showed a punch caused a fight-ending cut and not a headbutt.
Be that as it may, it doesn't change that Navarrete is one of the most dangerous and simultaneously accomplished fighters in the sport right now, and his accolades and exploits in the sport have long been overlooked by the boxing hipsters, the boxing snobs, because he doesn't fit a certain mold.
They think every pound-for-pound fighter is supposed to be some sort of sweet science nerd. Navarrete came into the Nunez fight with a record of 1-1-1, as well as the no contest over his last 4 fights, with the loss coming in his lone lightweight bout against Denis Berinchyk for a vacant title.
Yeah, at what was his 4th weight.
Despite the uneven results, Carl Moretti, Top Rank's vice president of boxing operations, further stamped Hearn's pound-for-pound sentiment. If he hasn't already, he certainly should be on the pound-for-pound list, said Moretti. What you've seen in the past is all a result of tonight. When you're fighting for world titles across different weight classes, it shines on a night like tonight. No disrespect to Nunez, he was the biggest puncher in the division, and it was a very competitive, one-sided fight. As the fight went on, Navarrete hit second gear. His length is his best advantage, and that's a problem for any division.
Not just his length, but how he uses it. It's sort of a running gag with Emmanuel that he does everything wrong, but somehow it all just comes together and he makes it work. Vaquero revived his career with a vengeance at the age of 31 by reinventing his training and nutrition program. Nunez had to suffer the consequences. He was never really in the fight, and the action got even more out of hand once his tattered right eye started shutting in the 9th round.
Need I remind you that ever since Emmanuel Navarrete unseated then WBO champion Isaac Dogbe in December of 2018, every single fight Emmanuel has had has been a world title fight for close to a decade. That's roughly 7 going on 8 years.
Competing at that level consistently. That him losing at what was his 4th weight against Denis Berinchyk doesn't really count against him because he goes down in weight back to where he belongs and beats a reigning champion like a drum.
Eddie Hearn couldn't stomach the one-sided traffic and urged the resilient Nunez to be saved from himself, which was ultimately the case when the ringside physician advised the fight to end 1 second into the 11th. I felt that Sugar was going to get stopped, said Hearn. He couldn't see, and at that stage, there was no way of winning the fight. So for me, I hate going over to the corner because that's their job, but I felt like the fight should have been stopped. They left it in the hands of the doctor, and for me, the doctor should have stopped it a round before, but they gave him an opportunity. I'm glad the fight was stopped when it was. Nunez is devastated at the moment. I told him Navarrete is the best of the best. Everyone saw how much heart he had, and that he didn't quit. He never stopped, even when he couldn't see. He just wanted to keep going. And I told him, you're not the best yet, but he's probably second. He'll be out for a while with the eye, but he will be back, and I believe he will be a world champion again. Coming into this fight, they said Navarrete has a new fitness trainer and nutritionist. You saw the difference. When he doesn't take it so seriously, sometimes he becomes a little unstuck. when he does take it seriously, which he clearly did on the night, he is going to be difficult to beat. What's next for Nunez?
Now that he's lost his IBF title?
A performance like that one, the one that he put on, where he fought his heart out in front of a lot of people, is the kind of performance that endears you to the boxing fans at large in victory or defeat, because at least with Sugar, you know, it's not going to be a waltz, it's not going to be a ballet, it's going to be a fight. And he's still one of the more dangerous guys at 130, given his small stature. I advise that he stay there. He doesn't have the physical dimensions to move up to 135, but at 130...
If Emmanuel Navarrete was a little bit too small and too soft in the body for 135, the same would apply to Nunez. But at 130, if he plays his cards right and fights in the right eliminators, he can be a world champion again. You will notice that Jazza Dickens, newly elevated WBA champion, is going to be fighting Anthony Cacace in defense of the title. I anticipate Jazza's gonna lose. Anthony's gonna win. What Sugar should do is target that belt. Anthony didn't want to fight Sugar before.
In defense of the IBF, remember, he was IBF champion and he dropped the belt upon being ordered to fight Sugar. If the same thing happens via the WBA,
probably drop that belt too. Sugar, upon his return, should fight in WBA eliminators. Eddie needs to keep him around, because if nothing else, he's an entertaining fighter, and like he said, he can become a world champion again.
What's next for Emmanuel? He may have to settle up with Charlie Suarez for a second time due to what is their unfinished business, and perhaps after that, unify titles with Oshaki Foster. Now that he's got a new fitness coach and a nutritionist, boiling down to 130, more invigorated than he was and more inspired.
I think he outguns Charlie Suarez in the rematch and stops him, and I dare say that he is the most dangerous man at 130. I don't think Oshaki beats him.
Oshaki is a conventional boxer who I don't think has the punching power or the output to keep up with and keep off Emmanuel Navarrete. I think he outguns him too.
Emmanuel's the real deal. Happy meal.
Now, what's the next step?
We did engage in conversation with Josh Kelly and his team. Just to put it easy, he does not want to fight.
Wow.
He just doesn't want to fight. I mean, we told him for the right money, we'll go to England. If not, come to Puerto Rico. We have a date for you. We both fought in the same date. It was supposed to be an easy conversation. He does not want to fight. He just doesn't. And that's just that. I can't make people fight me, you know?
Right.
Now we have this weird thing with Boots and Virgil with the court and suing and Virgil and Golden Boy suing each other.
Right.
All of that. Still waiting on what's gonna happen. Supposedly they should make a fight happen. We don't know yet. Haney also called me out. We also engaged conversation with Haney. He is open to fight, but obviously, like everybody, for the right money. And he's open to come to Puerto Rico because again we have a date set in the island. But some of these guys, they're not willing to play ball. They're willing to go on social media and say I want to fight.
Yeah, they're hiding behind reasons.
You know, it's simple to go on social media and say, oh, I want to fight everybody. And then when the conversations come by, I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do it. You know, that's why I don't do all the social media stuff, because I try to make things happen the right way.
Can't say Xander's not telling the truth. The moment he was in line to fight for a title, he was all in Sebastian Fundora's face, and Sebastian chose to hide behind his sister, drops the belt. Xander's got to fight for a vacant title instead, but that's not his fault.
You see that he tried to do things the right way, and shortly after becoming a world champion, what does he do? He corners a fight with another world champion, faster than anybody else in the division.
Unifies a title. Now he wants to unify another with Josh Kelly, IBF champion, and I never had any hope of that being either Josh Kelly's next fight or Xander Zayas' next fight. They're both at a stalemate because Josh wants it in the UK and Xander wants it in Puerto Rico. He's willing to go to the UK for the right money, but Josh's people aren't going to kick it out.
They're at a stalemate.
Xander also mentioned Virgil's legal situation with Golden Boy. He also mentioned Boots Ennis. What I think might happen, because Virgil's all wrapped up in that legal situation with Golden Boy, Boots Ennis may move to fight Josh Kelly, both of which are promoted by Matchroom.
He'll have to go to the UK to do it, but if he's willing to, I think the fight happens.
There is added pressure on Jaron Ennis to face somebody and face somebody good, particularly somebody with a belt at 154, because this division is far too deep for him to keep busy with the Uisma Limas of the world.
Even if you can't blame him directly for what Virgil's got going on with Golden Boy, there's still pressure on him to fight somebody good. Even if Virgil's not available, this division's too deep for you to have so much riding on him. Fight somebody else. Fight Josh.
After winning the title, Josh Kelly said that he's not in a hurry to fight Boots, but he's willing to fight Conor Benn and maybe unify titles with Xander. Now that we know he's not going to be doing the latter.
He's not fighting Xander, and he's not fighting Conor either. That leaves Boots. He's right there. You're within proximity of each other. There's pressure on Matchroom to make this happen.
And Virgil?
I don't know what's going to happen with Virgil. The entire conversation around Virgil Ortiz at this point is becoming far too litigious for a boxing fan. We're here for boxing, not legalese.
Became champion, like 18 months ago, maybe, when we got a phone call. Would you fight Virgil Ortiz in Saudi for X amount of dollars? 10 seconds, yes. They went and fought Majimov. 6 months later, when we were now the mandatory for Fundora, he literally gave up his title. He had the WBO title. He gave it up
to not fight
Xander. And he can say what he wants, but we were offered to fight him in San Francisco at Alcatraz for X amount of dollars.
And in Vegas, too.
And in Vegas. He said yes. We didn't even negotiate the money. It was good money. Yes. The opportunity. You're the champion. We know we got to come fight you. Vacated the belt.
That's crazy.
So it isn't like Xander.
They would
Xander
rather vacate the belt than not fight.
And that's what I'm saying. It's easy to go on social media, your manager, your team, and say, "Oh,
I'm making that fight."
Xander doesn't want to do this, and I'm willing to play ball. But you know, like, I'm willing to play ball, but you guys have to play ball with me too. I can't just do everything.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I have to make the negotiations. I have to sell the fight. I have to come on now. Let's talk boxing. Let's talk real, actual fighting. It's easy to just go on social media and say I want to fight.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, like your star has never been bigger. Like you were just on a hundreds of millions of people stage after winning your championship. On top of it, you haven't.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that Zayas versus Fundora could have happened at Alcatraz or Vegas as part of one of Turkey El Al Sheikh's shows, so that Sebastian could fight a guy that he already beat in Tim Kazoo and then move on to a Keith Thurman fight. See, this kind of stuff, being in this kind of a division where there's always something wrong, where there's always a reason for a fight not to happen, leads me to believe that Xander's days as a junior middleweight are already numbered, because what's he going to stick around for if he can't get what he wants? For that, he may as well move up to the middleweight division that is in desperate need of fresh faces and young stars. Xander's got the dimensions to do it. He's got the size. He's got the fan base. The Puerto Ricans are certainly behind him. It helps that he's bilingual, fluent in English and Spanish, so he can appeal to two separate demographics, knows how to present himself, knows how to speak, he's eloquent, already accomplished, and what is he? 23 years old, sticking around at junior middleweight for what?
Bunch of guys who ain't available to fight anyway, and some of which don't even want to fight anyway. Anybody at 154 is likely going to end up at 160.
You may as well get a head start on them, move up there now, maybe corner a fight with an aging champion in Arislandi Lara, who to my knowledge is not under any orders to satisfy any mandatories. He's not busy, he's not doing anything.
Because he can't get anything else going at 154, I could definitely see Xander moving up to 160 in the not-so-distant future, perhaps before this year is out.
I feel like Haney, like, I get why, Haney's a confident guy. He's obviously, but I feel like you're way too big for him, dude. Am I crazy to think, like, am I?
No, I think you're right. And I think he knows it too. I think he knows I'm way too big for him, but again, it's easy to go on social media.
Yeah.
Anybody could do it.
I think that's how the craziest thing is, how small you were when we first saw you, and now we see you in the ring and you're like,
dude,
good.
I remember seeing
Size.
seeing you at a BKFC, I think, and I was like, you're gonna make what weight? Like I couldn't believe it.
In the scramble of being frozen out by most of the welterweights in the welterweight division, Devin Haney got to calling out Xander Zayas not but a few weeks ago. I never believed a fight between them would materialize.
I still don't.
But you know, because nobody was giving Devin the time of day not that long ago at 147. Remember, Rolly didn't even want to fight him.
He said he didn't want to fight him because he was under the impression he was going to get a Pacquiao fight.
That falls through. He warms up to the idea of fighting Devin, and now Devin isn't calling out Xander anymore. They seem to be in negotiations to fight Rolly, which is a far more winnable fight. I, like the radio host, feel that Xander is far too big for the light-punching, glass-jawed Devin Haney.
Devin's gonna walk in there like he owns the place, thinking that he can A-side Xander Zayas when Devin doesn't actually have the marquee value to do that. Oh, I understand that in the past, Devin has definitely made more money than Xander Zayas per fight.
So long as somebody was willing to kick it out to him. In the beginning, it was DAZN that was willing to overpay him. These days, it's Turkey LL Sheik, none of which is based on Devin's drawing power, his ability to generate money with a fight. So if you're talking about a fight with Xander, unless Turkey's the one paying for it, or someone who's willing to overpay Devin, if it's just based on market value, he's gonna try to A-side Xander, and the money just isn't there.
That's a part of the reason people don't like Devin, because he's a pretty little princess, a prima donna, who thinks he's king shit when nobody actually likes watching him fight.
It's not a debate as to whether or not he's accomplished. We all know he's accomplished. He's a 3-weight world champion, and he's been undisputed before, commanded very big purses, but none of that is based on his drawing power. So,
And he's fucking boring.
Xander's way too big for him. The belts that Xander holds, they don't come with any weight stipulations as to what he can rehydrate to, and if what Devin would want is to stick a catch weight on him, I don't think Xander would be on board for that, because Xander's too fucking big.
This shit ain't gonna happen.
So this further accents the scarcity of noteworthy fights available for Xander at junior middleweight that might now see him moving up to 160 ahead of schedule. That, yeah, 154 is a deep division, but if nobody's available, nobody's available. So what are you sticking around there for? He'll probably make one or two defenses of his 2 alphabet titles, then move up. And you don't have to worry about missing anything at 154 because anybody there right now is likely to move up to 160 in the future. So you can settle up with these guys then.
That's what I think.